It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I mean, the Escalade is all about presence, and this has it.
It demands it. Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
And my name is Matt, and we have spent the last week with Cadillac's new electrified crown jewel. This is the Escalade IQ, and it's got over 450 miles of range, and I'm gonna walk you through the best and the rest of this thing.
Yeah, then we're gonna get behind the wheel and talk about some of the standouts for the week, and there is quite a few, so let's get into it.
Let's do it. The first thing that we have to talk about is kind of more of a nitpick, and normally I wouldn't even really bring it up, but I also did notice this in the Lyric that we tested last summer. And there's just a couple little creaks and rattles in the cabin, and Cadillac doesn't call themselves like luxury in the same way that like BMW, Audi, and Mercedes do. They call them more of like American premium. It's still really nice, but when you get into some of the finer details, like the window switches are a little bit clicky. And the center cup holders have a little bit of like a plasticky, scratchy, kind of terrible sound when the water bottle moves around in them. So there's just a couple little tiny things that you will notice through your ownership of this car that make you go, big money, and it makes that sound. And the next thing we're going to talk about actually is the third row, but we can't really get to the third row because we have the executive rear seating package. It's $7,500 and it is incredibly luxurious, but normally you would have the kind of old school flip and fold seats, so this part would come down and it would hinge right here so you can get this seat out of the way. But since we have the executive package, this just kind of comes down, and then we don't even have controls down here. So you have to go into the center screen and then whir this thing up. It takes about 1.5 minutes to get this thing completely out of the way, and then when it is, it's still really hard to get back there. I actually hurt myself coming out of there. So the third row with an executive rear seat equipped car kind of becomes unusable. But if you do manage to get someone back there, legroom is still going to be pretty small. Headroom is still going to be less than it is in the gas car. You are going to have 3 vents back there. You are going to have some chargers and some cup holders back there. So you have stuff. It's just if you ever want to use the third row, I recommend not getting the executive rear seat package. And we are going to talk about the elephant in the room, and the elephant being this thing because it is just so big. This thing's curb weight is like 9,100 pounds, which is just enormous. Like the village that I live in, to get into my subdivision, they posted a sign for the spring. The ground is soft, it's thawing out, it's wet, it's raining a lot. So they posted a weight limit sign at the beginning of my subdivision, and it said weight limit 3 tons. We're like 1.5 tons over that. Now they took it down, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's the point. You got to be aware of stuff like that. And a lot of that weight comes from this battery. This is an enormous 205 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's the biggest pack that they make. It's the same pack that's under the skin of the Hummer EV pickup truck. It's their 24 module pack, and it is just huge. 205 kilowatt hours. Now you get a lot of range from that, but when you consider like my house, we use 450 kilowatt hours over the course of a month. And I do a lot of really intensive electrical stuff, a lot of graphics rendering, a lot of video editing and exporting and upload. Like, this is intensive stuff. And like, we couldn't even charge this thing 3 times over the course of a month, but like with the amount of energy that we use in our house. So it's just big. It takes time to charge. It's going to be expensive to charge because it is just such a big pack. Also, just driving this thing, it is big. I sit basically at the same level as, you know, F-150s, Silverados, Ram 1500s, those sort of things. So I'm sitting up really high, and it is fairly wide. I think this is about 4 inches wider than the gas equivalent of Escalade. So driving through all of the construction in Milwaukee was a little bit more stressful. It's actually about 2.7 inches shorter than the ESV, the extended wheelbase, but the IQL is coming in. It's going to be 4 inches longer than this, so it'll be longer than the ESV, and yes, 4.2 inches wider than a normal one. So it's just big, and everything that comes along with that. And then continuing on this theme of big, everything about the Escalade IQ is big, including the price. It starts at $130,000, and as tested here on our Luxury 2 grade with our executive rear seat package and our $6,000 paint job, which is totally worth it, by the way, we're testing at almost $168,000, and that is big money. Bigger money than basically everything else in the class. Now, this is bigger and more practical, arguably, than a lot of the other rivals, but it is, you're gonna pay for it. And like we find with every car, there's just a handful of little nitpicks that we have to talk about with the Escalade IQ. And these are small things, like the passenger side mirror feels a little magnified, although maybe it's just the way that I have it oriented. I got used to it after about the third day, but at the first day it kind of caught me out. And speaking of things that caught me out, the curved 55-inch screen that dons your dash is curved the entire way, which means the cluster kind of angles away from you. Again, you get used to it in about an hour, but it's just something that struck me when I first got in the car. And the interesting thing is they've put every feature you could possibly conceive of in this car, and they stopped short of a heated and cooled cup holder. Just a little interesting. And the last one is less of a nitpick and more of an egregious offense, and it's just like every other Cadillac EV, you're not going to get Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. I get why they do this, it's for route planning, but I've got over 400 miles, near 450 real-world miles to use from. I don't need to know exactly where the charger is at all time. I'd like an Apple CarPlay, and I think everyone else would too. But with all those things covered, let's talk about the great things about the Escalade IQ, because there's a bunch. Now, the first thing we'll talk about is the EV stuff, because it's actually pretty good. Yes, this thing is too big, and it's too heavy, and it has too much battery in it, but there are pros to that fact. The 205 kilowatt-hour battery, that's again the usable size, is the same 24 module pack that's under the skin of the Hummer EV truck. We mentioned that a second ago. According to Cadillac, it's going to make over 460 miles of range. That's a big figure, but since the GVWR of this is over 10,000 pounds, the EPA actually doesn't efficiency test it. They don't even crash test it, so that's just Cadillac's claim. Now, obviously, we did our test. We did our Lakeshore Loop, which we do with everything, and we came back with 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. You extrapolate that out to the 205 kilowatt hour pack, and you're looking at about 430 miles of full range. That's pretty close, and obviously, like, it's spring here in Wisconsin. If it was summer and we had a little bit more temperature, then, you know, and if it was less windy, this would probably be pretty on par at about the 450 mile mark. So that's pretty incredible. We also did a highway test. We always do the highway test with the EVs. So we locked in the cruise, the Super Cruise, which is awesome, by the way, at 75 miles an hour and did a 50-mile loop thereabouts and came back with 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour. So you extrapolate that out to the pack and you've got about 360 miles of straight up highway range. And the highway is not generally where EVs shine. So you do have really impressive real world range from this pack, as you might expect from something this large. And then when it comes to charging this thing, if you do manage to get it completely drained and dead, it's going to charge incredibly fast, or at least it can. 350 kilowatts in terms of speed. That's obviously if you can find a charger that will do that. And at that speed, it's good enough to add 100 miles of range in 10 minutes. Again, if you can find a charger that'll do that. If you want to charge at an at-home charger like me, you can get up to 19 kilowatts of speed. Now my charger tops out at 14 kilowatts. So even if my charger is charging as fast and efficiently as possible, this thing could still do a little bit more. So I don't know what brand makes a faster home charger than an Emporia Level 2, but if you can find one that does 19, this thing will take it. And the last thing that I want to mention, and this is a big one, you can charge these Escalade IQs and pretty much all the Cadillac EVs at Tesla Superchargers. Now you get an adapter, you go into the app, you set up your payment, and it is super seamless and easy, which is why I've gotten this LECTRON Vortex plug. It's a NACS to CCS adapter, and what that basically means is I can charge this Cadillac Escalade and really any approved brand at a Tesla Supercharger. And zooming out, that means I can use practically any charger I come across thanks to this little thing here, which is just one less thing to worry about on a road trip and does make road trips less intimidating in your EV. Now this Vortex charger is usually about $250, but right now, at least at the recording of this video, it's marked down to $185. It's heavy, it feels sturdy, I'm familiar with the LECTRON brand, and I think this is honestly probably the most important accessory that you can have for your EV. And I also got this little adapter here. This is a J1772 to NACS adapter. This is for my home level 2 Emporia charger that I have. So I can charge all of these new press cars that are coming out with NACS ports without having to go out and buy a second charger with a new cable and a new head. So this is usually about $60. They've marked it down to about 36, at least at the recording of this video. And with these two adapters, I don't really have range anxiety. I don't have to worry about charging. And that's just another thing off my mind, and I love that. So details for both these LECTRON adapters down in the description below. But let's get back to the Cadillac. And then we'll talk about styling. Now the Escalade has always been about presence, and while this EV or IQ version looks a little bit different than its gas counterpart, I think it still nails the presence thing that the Escalade has to bring. And everyone I've run into is in love with this Midnight Steel Frost paint. It's like a matte, but also metallic blue. It's almost $6,000, but it is totally worth it. It looks fantastic. And of course, up front, you have the light light-up face similar to the Lyric, and it does dances depending on whether you're walking away or approaching the car. And you've got a long hood that hides your frunk, or what they call an E-trunk. But down below you've got 24-inch wheels. They're aero-specific to help maximize range, but they are just big like everything else here. You do get a front fender badge detail that kind of runs into the front door and also doubles as a turn signal. And you got a slightly more sleek profile, as in the roof, once you get towards the B and C pillar, starts to kind of taper down for a more aerodynamic effect, as you'd see from an EV. Oh, and the roof is black. It's that two-tone thing for $1,100, and yeah, it looks cool. Though, with the Midnight Steel Frost paint, I might like to see the whole thing in this matte blue. Around the back, the rear looks maybe a little bit funky, but clean and stylish. And ultimately, it looks cool. It snapped everyone's neck that I've drove past this week. And isn't that kind of the point in an Escalade? And then when it comes to the driving experience in this incredibly large behemoth. Now you have dual motor all-wheel drive as standard. It's not exactly the same motors that you would get in the Hummer EV SUV that we tested last year. That's the cousin to this thing you could think of. But the motors here are good for 750 horsepower. That's in VMAX mode. There's a convenient little V button here on the steering wheel. I like having that, by the way, because most of the time I want to ride around in something like this, an uber luxury SUV in touring mode. Give me the softest suspension, really supple ride, and then just give me a button to unleash the power. And so I like having that. So 750 horsepower, 780 pound-feet of torque. If you do the math conversion, it's like 1,000 Newton meters, and that's why that's on the back there. But the 0 to 60 is good for like the mid 4 seconds. And here you have adaptive air suspension with mag ride dampers. So it is an incredibly controlled, incredibly supple ride here. It just never crosses that line to feel effortless. It still feels big, it still feels heavy, but it does compose itself in a shockingly good way. Now, like I said, this has a slightly longer wheelbase than the extended wheelbase ESV Cadillac Escalade, so the long wheelbase of the gas one. But you do have a rear steer module, and that's why you can use crab walk or arrival mode. But it makes it really shockingly nimble and agile in parking lots, in low speeds, around the city. Now, parking this thing is a pain in the ass in the city and like on a street, but it can do it. If you have the guts for it, it can do it. So overall, the driving experience, I sit up really high, but it's really quiet, it's really comfy. I do feel a little vibration through my foot, through the pedal every now and then, which is a little interesting, but overall, it's the epitome of luxury SUV. It's just luxury SUV supersized. And when it comes to cargo capacity, or the trunk, there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you press the bottom of the Cadillac badge. It doesn't really give, but it somehow senses that you're there, and then it opens up to reveal one of the cargo areas. The conventional rear trunk here on the IQ is a little bit smaller than it would be on the normal length gas Escalade. It's about 23.6 cubic feet behind the third row. There's a little bit of storage underneath, and you can fold the rear seats, the third row, electronically. Although with these executive rear second row seats, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. But if you don't go for the executive rear seats, with the third row down, you're looking at about 69 cubic feet of space, and with everything down, again, sans executive package, you're looking at almost 120 cubic feet of storage. But like I mentioned, it doesn't stop there. You do have a frunk under this enormously long hood. They call it an E-trunk, and there's a button offset, rubberized right here on the driver's side. You press that, it takes a minute to check itself, and then it will open. It's very, very deep here. It's about 12 cubic feet of space. It's a little bit skinny because there's a lot going on the flanks, which is why Cadillac, for $1,000, will sell you this cadaver tray, and it comes included with a little net and some all-weather flooring and protection, and this is a great place to put stuff like excess charging cables, or if you are going to go tailgating, there's a 400-watt outlet right here. There's some tie downs, and ultimately it's pretty practical. You're not going to be short on space for cargo here in the Escalade IQ. And when it comes to technology, obviously just looking at the dash of this thing, you can tell that technology maybe was a focus when they were designing this thing. You have 55 inches of screen donning your dash here. I am very aware, I think I mentioned it earlier, that the entire screen is curved, and it kind of makes sense that it would be, but it's very apparent to me that when I first sat in here that the gauge cluster is not facing directly towards me. You get used to it in a minute, but you also have a huge center screen that's tied into the same screen as your cluster, so that's nice and cohesive. There's a little bar because the passenger side screen has a prismatic effect to it. So if my wife is sitting here in the passenger seat, it's sensing that, and then it's going to turn that screen off or turn the prisming on, so I can't see it from the driver's side, but she can see it over there. When she's not sitting there, there. Like right now I can see it just says Escalade IQ in the same kind of like soft purple font and everything. It's really pretty cool. That passenger screen is good for Hulu, YouTube, you've got HDMI hookups, all the same stuff that you get in the back seat you can do on the passenger screen too. That's nice and helpful. It's not like, oh, here's just infotainment stuff that's also on the screen right next to you in the center. But you do also have a lower screen, which is kind of Audi-esque in the sense that it's your helper screen, things for climate and comfort, your seat controls, your seat massage, heating, cooling, your climate controls, and just other miscellaneous controls down there. But back up to the main event. Again, we complained about this earlier. No Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto because of the range planning and route optimization. I get why they do it. I just don't agree with the rationale. But you do have Google built in. You've got Alexa and all that stuff. So if that helps you, the voice commands are actually pretty accurate. I do have a head-up display, fully digital everything, obviously. I've got a great 360 camera and a digital rear view mirror, which is really, really nice. And we do have one of the best, if not the best, driver assist autopilot things out here. You've got Super Cruise as standard, you've got 3 years included, and it's awesome. Totally hands-free. You've got your little eyeball watcher here, and if I'm coming up on somebody and doing 70 and they're doing 65, it's going to change lanes for me, overtake them, and then put me back into the right lane to continue on. I don't really have anything more to say. Super Cruise is awesome. It's probably the best that I've experienced. It actually is the best that I've experienced. And we've talked about some of the cons of the executive rear seating package in terms of how to access the third row, the effect that it has on the cargo area. But the truth is, for $7,500, they're pretty cool. They get you this flying center bridge with cup holders flanked by USB-Cs, and then your center command screen that you can control everything in: your seating position, your seating massage, heated and cooled rear seats back here. You can control your automatic doors back here. You can control ambient lighting, and there's even a button for conversation enhance, which will basically take your voice back here and amplify it over the speakers to the people in the front so you can have a conversation. We talked about that a little bit earlier. You've got dual wireless phone chargers back here, and you open up your center console, you press this little black tab, and then you release the airline or Rolls-Royce style center trays, which is just kind of the coolest thing. Very executive package. The only thing that we're missing here is a champagne chiller, but I think you can actually get that for the front seat. You can get a cool box underneath that flying bridge. There's some storage underneath here, but you do have map pockets, and for an extra $2,000, you get these rear entertainment screens. You can see some of the travel information, but it doesn't overwhelm you with infotainment garbage. It gives you things like Hulu and YouTube Kids and stuff that your kids and people in the back would actually use. Again, you've got speakers in the headrest. The seats are very comfortable, the heat, the massage, the whole thing, and all of everything going on back here. The enormous pano roof just feels opulent, luxurious, and yeah, you forego an entire row of seats with this, but $7,500? Maybe worth it? I don't know, leave it down in the comments, but this is pretty cool. And then there's the overall cabin experience, what it's like to just sit and be in this thing. Now, starting with the seats, you got heated, you got cooled, you got massage, you got a bolstering adjuster here, you've got 2-person memory, and you can even heat just your back or your back and your rump, depending on what you want. But then from the interior, oh, the seats are also really comfortable too. I do feel like I'm sitting really high up, but that's just a product of having that kind of double stacked battery pack and the whole thing. But in terms of the interior overall, the dash, it is all about the screens in this thing. You do have ambient light, and at night, I would go so far as to say that at night it is more of an event to drive this thing than during the day. It's really nice during the day. You can see this really pretty kind of light brown interior with the black. I think it's camellia brown and black interior. It's beautiful, and the wood that you have in here is lacquered and also just gorgeous. Some of the finishing details are a little bit more plastic than I would like, but overall, it is spectacular to just sit in here and look at this stuff. It's pretty well built. We talked about some of the rattles and stuff earlier, but other than a couple little things that we mentioned, it's pretty solid. You also do get a good amount of storage down here underneath your flying bridge. You've got a storage area. I believe you can get a cool box there if you want to spend that money. I kind of like having a little cubby down here. You've got a little Cadillac logo with stitched in lines. It's just cool. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. Oh boy.
The premises are spinning.
1,000 Newton-meter burnout. Did you go into VMAX?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay,
well,
good.
I'm in. Yeah, VMAX right
I'm gonna be real. I did not drive this thing once in sport mode, but I like VMAX. VMAX button on the steering wheel, and then BMW's boost paddle. Best idea ever for EVs.
Yeah,
You have all the power right there at a button.
I'll be honest as well. I did not put it in sport mode either. I just, when I wanted some power, I put it in this V mode.
Heck yeah. All right, tell me a couple of things that stood out to you because there's a lot to cover with this bad Larry.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's gorgeous. It's got a stunning exterior. This paint, the midnight steel frost, right?
Yeah, the matte blue with a little bit of metallic flake in it is spectacular. $6,000, worth it every penny.
Yeah. Sorry, I just need to scoot up here. Can't see the road.
Are we sitting too high on this double-decker battery?
No, yeah. No, so I really like that. And then for its weight, like it's fairly quick for being 9,000 pounds. 750 horsepower. It's pretty quick, but it's interesting that it's got the same power to weight ratio as like some interesting cars like a Camry TRD, a BRZ, and then a Mustang EcoBoost. Yeah,
those are weird, like just kind of for fun, so you know, cars. Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, this thing is, it's disconcertingly, it's not quick. It's disconcertingly fast though, because it's so big. And the thing that I noticed during my time with it was it masks speed quite a bit because you sit so high up and there's so little, like it's hurricane force winds outside right now and we don't hear anything. And so it's like refining a lot out of it, and it's sitting so high, so you're so removed from the road. So I find myself like in excess of the speed limit.
Yeah, it does a nice job of kind of isolating you from the road noise and wind, but then to your point, you don't feel that speed. Yeah. But there's some things that I really, really do love. I love that the doors auto close when you put your foot on the brake. I love the one pedal driving that you can do. I also love the paddle brake and then the auto hold brake. I think like that feature is probably one of my favorites that have come out of EVs. Yeah. It takes a little bit to get used to, but like it's just so much more convenient not having to really move your foot. Yeah,
I do have a weird fondness for the paddle, for the regen paddle.
Yeah.
I just like it.
And then on to some of the bads. So I don't think it like drives as nice as I'd like it to. And obviously it's the weight. It's got air suspension, but you hit certain potholes or certain bumps just right, and it doesn't feel like a $150,000 luxury SUV.
$168,000.
$168,000.
As tested, $130 to start.
As tested, like I mean, so just to further my point.
Such big money. No, I'm just going to cut in because I think a lot of it, and I noticed this with, I think the weight is a big part of it. Yeah. If it wasn't 9,100 pounds, it probably would be a little bit better. And also, the tire pressures are set 60 PSI in the front, 70 PSI in the back.
That is crazy.
It's just too much pressure. Yeah. Like, so you're going to hear every expansion joint, every little thing. Like, you're not actually, like, it's not jarring too much, but you hear everything. I don't know. There's too much weight, there's too much tire pressure, but that's a song as old as time with these big EVs. But yeah, huge 205 kilowatt hour battery pack that's, weighs as much as like a Civic or something. Yeah. It's just heavy. It's just big and heavy, and there's no escaping it, no matter how much the air suspension and mag ride, how good it is.
Right, yeah. And then a lot of EVs are going this way, no Apple CarPlay. So like it's great that they incorporated Google Maps into here, and I think you get like a free subscription for a certain amount of time, but I navigate Spotify and Apple Music through the computer like screen.
Through this built-in?
Yeah, through this built-in.
Through the computer screen. You sound 80.
Through
I work in tech. Yeah, sure, guy.
Through the infotainment screen. I don't normally navigate on my phone, but it obviously, with this, it just like shows your local files on your phone. You can't actually navigate Spotify or Apple Music at all. So that's a bit of a unfortunate situation.
Yeah, the whole no Apple CarPlay and Android Auto thing is something we complain about constantly, and it's not just an us complaint, it's every single consumer. They want it, and I get why they take it out. So, you know, route planning is better, but then you have to like have a data plan for your car once it's, you know, whatever. So it's a hassle. It's just a hassle. And the Cadillac and GM are not the only ones doing it. Rivian does it, Tesla does it. It's an EV thing. I don't really understand why. Lucid was smart enough to bring Apple CarPlay and Android Auto back into the car.
Yeah.
So it can be done. So, I don't know. But yeah, annoying.
And then I think lastly, well, two small things, like the headrest.
It is firm, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just very firm. And then
there's speakers in it. That probably doesn't help.
I really do love like the 55-inch screen and all the different settings you can do, but I do think it needs a better processor or something because it's just a little bit laggy. It kind of reminds me of us in the RAM last week. Like things just don't happen as smoothly as you'd like or as used to you are on your phone, you know, moving in between applications and that sort of thing. It's just not as fast as I'd like here.
Yeah, it kind of feels in like navigating some of the menus in the native UI, like it does feel a little bit like it's a first generation, first model year product. And like it'll probably get better through over the air updates and stuff, but like it is a little bit laggy and it starts to compound a little bit the longer you use it, some of the frustration.
Yeah. I guess I'll jump real back. I'll jump to the things I liked again though real quick. Like
okay. So we're sandwiching.
We are sandwiching
Good.
here.
End on a high note for Cadillac.
Exactly. The front tray in the
frunk.
In the frunk.
The dead body tray?
Yeah, is pretty cool.
It is cool.
I like that a lot.
It's such a long trunk. Like literally, I'm 6'1", I got long arms, and I can't reach all the way back.
Which is awesome that they have that tray come out. So
it's less awesome that it's $1,000, but yeah, it is awesome.
That is less awesome. But if you're spending $160K on this, like
what's another grand? Who cares?
And then the executive package, although like I think it's kind of useless. Like I personally wouldn't get it, but it is cool that you have legit trays back there.
Yeah.
I do wish you had like a footrest that comes up, like in the
like a lounge mode kind of situation,
like in the
BMW i7
yeah.
And even like the Lexus LX we had something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I have hot and cold feelings about the rear entertainment executive whatever package, and like if you're getting this to use the third row, you absolutely cannot.
Yeah, you can't with this.
Like I hurt myself coming out of the third row after shooting B-roll, and I did not go back there, even to shoot like my piece about the third row. So like you put the executive rear seat package in, this becomes a 4-seat vehicle. This becomes a 9,100 pound, $168,000 4-seater.
Yeah.
And like those seats are sick. The trays are really cool. The screens are cool. Like it's cool, but it is 4 seats.
What's interesting though is like this is the third longest production car ever made, and you still barely have a third row.
Yes. And even the one that doesn't have the executive rear seat, the third row is awful. Here's the thing that I like about this. This delivers on being an Escalade.
Yes.
Because the Escalade is about pizzazz, presence, a little bit of like American glitz and glam, and this brings that. Just from the size, the road presence, the styling, the matte blue paint, just the overwhelming feeling of seeing this in my driveway and on the road has presence. The interior is visually intoxicating. Huge pillar-to-pillar screen. This wood, this inlaid wood on the dash, you see it in the sun here, it's like catching and like almost sparkling with these wood grains. Fantastic to look at. Like Mercedes intoxicating visuals. Some of the stuff, you know, has a little creak and rattle and stuff like that, so it's not quite Audi level in terms of build quality, but like it looks great. So I think it delivers on what an Escalade needs to be, or it has historically been. But yeah, the big problems come from how heavy it is, how expensive it's going to be to charge because it's such a big battery, and how, did I say how expensive it is?
You did.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to kick it to you because 5-star, I want the rating. Where would you rate this thing? This is our first one. We just decided to do this, so it's going purely on vibes.
Yeah, I'm going to say
out of 5 stars.
3.8.
3.8.
Yeah.
We don't have any idea what that means in relation to other stuff, but there you have it. So thank you to Cadillac for letting us have a go at your Escalade IQ. Thank you to you for watching. What's your 5-star rating? And we'll catch you in the next one.